So there was a news report recently which discussed the incident at Marvin Winans' church. I believe that was his church, where a woman came up for to give her offering. It was like $1,350 or something like that, or it was over $1,300. And he kind of rebuffed her because he said it had to be 2,000. It's like, oh my God. The video looks bad, but the woman said that she was not rebuked by Marvin Winans, and then Marvin Winans explained what happened. So I guess what happened was this for the building fund or offerings, and it was like a day of giving, and they had a line, and if you gave $2,000, you would come up first to give your offering. Well, I guess the woman showed up with her son, and she only had what, $1,350, $1,325, and that's what Marvin was like, well, you know, this is for $2,000. Where's the rest of the money? It's like, oh my God. But if the instructions were the people who come up first, who gave 2,000s, we will do you first, and then we'll go down to the 1,000 and all that stuff. So technically it makes sense, but man, there had to be a better way of doing it. Like, let's say she came up and she jumped the line. She jumped the line and she was all excited, and she had, Pastor, this is my 1325, and here's my son. Pastor Winans could have said, now, sister, you know we're going 2,000 first, but you know what you are giving is a blessing. I know this is hard for you, so thank you for this blessing, and thank you, little man. You know, you have a great mom here. Who else got that $2,000? So you could have praised her for jumping the line. But man, $2,000. Like, I don't know where these folks feel like black folks got all this money. With people being laid off, we got AI. We still got a big homelessness problem in our city. You know, a lot of black women have been getting laid off. Like, I don't know if people should be giving $2,000 to the church. And again, my grandfather was a pastor and my dad is a deacon. But back in the day when I was going to church, because it was different for me. Like my dad's a Baptist, but my mom was an AME, so she was a Methodist. So I ended up going to my mom's church because we were done by noon. My grandfather's church, we'd be there till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But even when I went with my mom or to my grandfather's church, they asked for an offering. You gave an offering. You gave what you could, and that's it. But I knew times were turning when I started hearing reports like down in Atlanta that it was like 15, 20 years ago, probably 20 years ago, there were ATMs in the church. I was like, what you need an ATM for? And then people were saying like, you should give this amount. Listen, I think you should give what you can give. If you want to give tithes, give tithes. If you can afford it, fine. But a lot of people don't have that type of money anymore. If I ran a church, I would say, listen, give what you give. Like, if you can help us with the church and the building fund and all that stuff, because there's a lot of upkeep in the church and we don't have as many parishioners, and that's another thing too, not as many people are going to the church anymore. I think I would say, like, we do need money. You know, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Like, for this church to keep going, we do need funds, but give what you can give. I know it's tight out there. I think that's how I would do. I think that's how my grandfather was. My grandfather wasn't about money and all that stuff. He had a small little church, man. You know, they paid him, but I think he probably lived off his pension and his retirement money. I think that's how he just lived. Like, he wasn't trying to be this dude in gaiters and all that stuff. Not to say that was Winans, but you know, the church that Winans has, if that was still his church, you know, it's probably a lot of upkeep. Before, when the Winans was hot, you know, he probably gave a lot more back to the church. But, you know, the Winans, they're still great, but, you know, they're not like Kirk Franklin today. So, you know, maybe Pastor Winans and the Winans aren't making that much money anymore when they're performing. And, like, there's less parishioners in the church. So maybe, you still got to pay for the mortgage, still got to pay for the lights. So, you know, I understand technically asking for the $2,000, but I think churches need to kind of rethink how they're going to do this. Maybe churches probably need to downsize. Like, and again, you hate to leave these old grand churches. In Akron, we got Wesley Temple. Like, I would hate to shut down Wesley Temple because it's a classic church, man. And you hate to leave, but man, if people aren't going to church anymore and people don't have to have as much money to pay for offerings, I think churches moving forward, especially black churches, are going to have to make some hard decisions. Like, I've seen white churches go through this. Like, you know, there's quite a few white churches that's they had to move out because they couldn't pay for the mortgage anymore, pay for the property tax because they just don't have the money like they used to. So what do you think about Pastor Winans? Do you think he was wrong for calling that woman out? Do you think she was wrong for jumping the line when he said, like, this is the $2,000 line? Do you think she was wrong for jumping the line? I feel like he could have handled that better. But she's very dedicated. She's very dedicated. She almost blaming herself. And he seemed very apologetic, but these pastors are funny, man. Listen, like I said, my father was a deacon. My father was a deacon. My grandfather was a pastor. Rest in peace, sir. I feel like I've always dropped the ball because I don't know the Bible backwards and forwards. And I watch a lot of bad movies, which I shouldn't be watching. But I try to be a caring person. I try to be a kind person. So it's funny when I see some of these pastors and he'll say, I want a jet, or you know, not giving enough money, or y'all need to pay for my gators. And it's like, man, like, you're supposed to be, is this the teachings of Jesus Christ? Sometimes I feel like I walk the walk of Jesus, even with my faults, more so than many people who swear that they was anointed. Yeah, man. Now, I can't say that for every pastor. I think there's a lot of good pastors out there and good deacons and sisters out there. But, man, sometimes when I hear these stories, it's like, are y'all really following the word of God or the word of your ego?